to the last panel discussion of the day. We have embracing voice technology in your recruitment strategy. A very interesting panel discussion brought to you by our silver partner, Callify AI. This session will be moderated by Mr. Chetan Indap, Chief Executive Officer and Founder at Callify AI, Mr. Karthik SM, Head of Talent Acquisition at Biocon, Mr. Abhiroop Guha, Senior Director, Talent Acquisition at Biocon. Ladies and gentlemen, may we please have a huge round of applause for our panelists for the day.
Thank you so much, Karthik and Abhiroop, for joining in for this session. And to the audience, whatever's left of it, I think we're going to really go away from technology. I think we've heard too much of conversational AI today. So I'm going to ensure that this session is going to be about intelligent human conversation with some of the leaders from a domain that we have addressed for the last 5 years. And that domain is talent acquisition and how we have leveraged voice in talent acquisition domain. And Karthik, in this past, I think he's exposed to some of those deployments, and I think it'll be great to hear from him. And Abhiroop, who's also been in talent acquisition for almost 16 years and can contribute as well. So I'm actually going to keep this a very, very open. I think we are in the last segment, but I think I wanted to start from a perspective that how is voice relevant now in talent acquisition? Voice not from a technology perspective, but voice from a human perspective. Because I believe voice is identity, voice is human, voice is leadership, voice is opinion. How do you see that in talent acquisition, Karthik?
Sure. Check. Thank you, Chetan. I think you made an interesting point that voice has always been an important criteria in selection of candidates, from very start, right? When I started my career 20 years back. So my first job interview was with Wipro Spectramind. Okay, so if you guys see, the boom of contact center or call center, happened 20 to 25 years back, right? So I have been in the receiving side, right? So today I recruit, but I've been for interviews where, couple of names, Alsec Technology, Sutherland, and all, the big players today. So I'd been for interviews, and I think the one thing they checked back then was voice, right? Voice neutrality. So if you can speak, if you are trainable, then you're in, right? So it started back then, but I think it's kind of evolved, right? So if we were having a conversation outside. If I rewind 15 years back when I was hiring for Accenture, right, for Accenture operations, we used to have, for the contact center, so we used to call the voice hiring. Majority of the folks, who can speak English, who can communicate, who can articulate, are basically, hired, right? And then we put them on a training. So we always had this human element, right? So we used to have trained recruiters to assist them. We used to have trainers who assist them post that, because it is critical for the job we hire, right? So they are sitting here and speaking to across the globe. So, and I think interestingly, Hemant mentioned a point that, we don't need, machines to have emotions, right? So for me, I don't want my recruiters to have emotions. Their emotions should not reflect on the candidates. So that's the biggest problem I'm trying to solve for the last 20 years. You have a bad day, you show it on your candidate, but that is not, right. So, fast forward today, if you see some of these assessments are replaced by, technology. Interestingly, you can talk to the machine at your convenience. You can pick the slot, you can schedule the interviews, and you give the assessment. And end of the day, you move forward with the rounds of interviews and everything. And for me, most important thing, the change what I've seen is, breaking the bias from an assessment standpoint. Now, I'll also, pick up another example. The other challenge has always been the calibration among the assessors, interviewers, right? Most of the organizations have 2 to 3 rounds of interviews, or, sometimes, I've been on the other side where we serve client and we ask the client to interview as well. So there are 6, 7 rounds of interviews. So now for us, every interview, so we don't record interviews, we don't play it back, we don't have AI, ML coming into play and then telling that, you are hiring based on the competencies for the organization and this is your organization culture, value, competencies. So we, analyze it and then this is the guy who fits in and then, there are players who do rank the candidates, right? I do 100 interviews and my recruiters don't have to do it. So for me, breaking the bias is important. So when I use technology today for assessing, candidates in recruiting, the beauty today is that we have data backed up by data, and data, right? So your assessment, your personality assessment, your cognitive ability, etc., etc. Now, that plays a critical role. I think that is, to me, as a recruiter, we give fair opportunity to all the candidates. We break the bias, and I can stand up and play the interview back or play the call back and tell my assessor that now you tell me why would you not hire this person. So that is key. So going back to your question, voice has always been there, one of the key criteria, and today with technology, we do it better, right? We do it faster. So 2 parameters we look at. One is, it's always been, 20 years my KRA has never changed. Cost per hire, time to hire, right? So these are the 2 things, which we try to solve. And today with technology, we do it faster and we cut cost. So, with that, I'll pass it on to you back.
Thanks, Karthik. I think you made a good insight there about bias, and voice could actually induce that. And that's a question I'd like to put to Abhiroop, is that today technology can be used to derive emotional elements of a person based on a voice. It can derive honesty levels. It can derive multiple personality characteristics. Do you think that would be an encroachment of a privacy of a person? What's your view on that?
Thank you for having me. So I think voice technology has come a long way, right? From an iPhone having a Siri to people not using it much, to the the speaker, the Alexas and the Google Homes coming, and then also people not using it much, to asking for the weather, to asking for somebody's age, some celebrity's age, or even asking to play a song, to now the world is now ordering a pizza. I don't know, I would have asked Hemant when can we order a pizza through voice technology on Swiggy. So it has come a long way, and from that perspective, I think, like Karthik mentioned, bias is something which we have to be aware about and always take it away from a recruiting, from a judgmental standpoint, so that we are focusing on only the the talent or what the skills that is being brought to the table. From that perspective, I think my sense is the way forward for recruiters or talent acquisition to use voice technology is to assess independently, and also, like Karthik said, time. For example, today recruiters do not use voice technology as much as we are using it on the candidate side. So maybe candidates are using on-demand videos, or like Callify does the chatbot interaction with candidates. But when when the outcome of those chats and voice technology come to the other side, the recruiters are still clicking on those videos, numerous videos, and looking and trying to understand, maybe the eyeball rolling, looking at whether the candidates are answering the questions properly. So from that perspective, I think getting our recruiters or the talent acquisition team to use voice technology is going to be the next big step towards using voice technology in recruitment or talent acquisition.
No, fantastic. And I think you did mention about some of the digital assistants and that they've been in existence for almost 5-6 years now. So the question to you, Karthik, I mean, you've seen, you have a large team of recruiters yourself. Have you thought of, let's say, deploying an Alexa for each of your recruiters so they could actually send out emails which they probably take 15 minutes to draft? What do you think has been the challenge?
Okay, so I've been testing and piloting some of these products for the last, I would say, about 8 years. Okay, the biggest change the problem is the change management, right here. So everybody agrees, understands that you know we can automate most of the things at the bottom of the value chain, right? So I want my personally, I want my recruiters to be productive, very productive, right? So I don't want them to come in the morning and call 10 candidates and say that 2 candidates are interested in the job, right? So the time lost is, it's actually it's not a productive time. So going by my past experience, I think the mindset is driving the change for any of these products we try and we implement. And it is easy, and I have also seen that to force this change and then make recruiters adapt to it is easier than the resistance which comes from the hiring managers, right? So see, the product is not just for recruiters. Maybe if a certain problem is solved, like let's say auto sourcing or ranking the candidates, or CTQ, right? So you don't have to call 100 candidates and do the hygiene check and find out that 50 people are interested, 50 are not interested. But I think for me, the challenge has always been, how do we look at the end-to-end value chain when you bring in such a product, right? So I also want to ensure that the larger part of the organization uses it and it just doesn't become a recruiting solution. So one is, for driving the change, and it goes with, most of the times I've seen the products. I have, to some of you here, so I've always, I've never taken a call on any of the products, right? So I've asked my team to pilot, use it for 3 months, and I've said that if you find it useful, if you find it comfortable, let's buy it, right? If you see that there is value in it. And most of the times, I've seen the failure happening at that stage. But again, I might be wrong, but I know today, it is much more than, the AI and ML in recruiting is 10 times better than the AI and ML what we saw in recruiting 5-10 years back, right? So it's about simplifying. At somewhere, it's also that, okay, what if, if mission starts doing this, will I lose my job, right? It's also the culture which we bring in. You're letting go of the low, value chain of work, what is there. It is not the core job, right? So I've always said that recruiters are not data entry operators, right? Recruiters have to think, right? And it is one of the key roles. So you let the mission do all of this, and you can focus on the good part of the work, which is bringing on board negotiations and all of that. So yes, it is driving the change management. How do you do it? And that is, to me, is the success for any of these products, AI products or digital products in recruiting. Simplify it and then drive the change, in ease. So that's going to be the success.
No, correct. I think one knows that in the recruitment there are two aspects. One is the screening and filtering aspect, which is actually sieving through a large set of data, and then the selection aspect, where you're actually making a judgmental call and a decision. I think it's pretty clear that technology can play a role in the first part, which is filtering and screening at scale. But the selection continues to be a human element, and that's why recruiters won't leave job, no matter how great a technology wherever will get built in recruitment. So that's a philosophy we work with as well. Thank you so much for that. There's one small thing, and for example, recruiters use a lot of WhatsApp, right, with candidates when they're not responding or they are doing. I think the last resort falls down to, can I WhatsApp the person? WhatsApp has this voice feature which has been there, and some of us, when we use between our friends, I think it gives a very close connect with the person you're listening to. Why hasn't this feature of WhatsApp, of voice notes, being used in the recruitment domain? Either of you can just give your thoughts, and both of you maybe.
So I'll start, and I'll answer the easy part, and I'll pass it to Abhiroop. So one, I think at least in the last 2-3 organizations where I've worked, WhatsApp has not been the official platform for communication, right? I think their ends, though people use people do it, but we don't encourage because, for various security reasons and stuff, right? So it is not an official medium. That is one. But just leaving WhatsApp aside, the technology, I think, I think some of them spoke earlier as well. I think that is future. So we need to use that. But we need to find out if WhatsApp does it or a licensed product does it. Very relevant to the setup, to the organization is what is key. Because, today everything is on WhatsApp and we loosely forward everything. So now can we encrypt it? Can we limit it to the audience? Technology is simple. So for me, you have to lift that and then use it. And we are, in fact, trying some of those, for example, we are trying a pilot with one of the, organization where, let's say that, the team is going for a weekend walk-in drive, right? So which is part of recruiting where you hire in mass. So there is in the app, you can create a group, okay? And it's like WhatsApp, right? And let's say 20 people are traveling for the event, and then 20 other people are in the back end managing the event. All of them are in the group. So you communicate there. You send voice, you send text, you can send your interview questions. If somebody is not there, so it becomes one median where everybody is communicating. It's a chat bot is used, voice bot is used, and end of the day, I am, as a recruiting lead, I am sitting here at home on a Saturday evening, I am seeing the output, which is 100 people came, 20 people are getting hired, this. And you include the comm guy, he's already making the fitment. So pick the technology, use it in the right, use it to the right tool. Definitely enables hiring, and we are already, like I said, we are trying, and it is working for us.
So I'm a Bengali and we order fish, right? The guy who delivers fish to my place actually sends me voice notes that, hey, this fish is available. So jokes apart, I think Karthik is very right from a data privacy compliance standpoint. I worked with Credit Suisse before I joined Biocon. And we were not even allowed to, recruiters were not even allowed to have groups like we have these corporate, for example, we will have an HR group or a, talent acquisition group or a recruiter group. In a banking environment, we were told strictly not to have any business communication through WhatsApp. Having said that, it is impossible. WhatsApp is one of the most easiest way of reaching to candidates, like you rightly mentioned, right? So, how we can get this, to use to our benefit, is to ensure that the application tracking systems, the candidate relationship management systems, should be able to send out those messages through the CRM. So we are actually on the verge of evaluating a lot of these new age application tracking system, and most of them would be able to send out WhatsApp messages and voice notes. But like I said, we are a long way away from enabling our recruiters to use voice technology, and that is definitely something we should focus on.
Okay, thank you so much. I think I had a very short list of questions, and it was very focused to the talent acquisition space. So I think I'm really done with my questions. And what I wanted to do later and not in the beginning was to really introduce your backgrounds. So Karthik, I think, has close to about 20 years of experience in the talent acquisition sector, worked with leading global organizations like IQVIA, Accenture, Flextronics, and Malfoy Randstad. Abhiroop comes with about 16 years of TA experience, worked in Biocon, Credit Suisse, Shell, Accenture, and GE. And finally, I had the opportunity of moderating this session, and I'm the founder CEO of Callify. It's a voice AI-based talent acquisition and talent management platform. I'm leaving the floor open to questions from the audience. If there are, great, please.
I think I'm good enough.
Very clear.
So, Karthik, I would like, not related to voice and recruiting, but given your experience in HR domain, change management which you talked about, it's not only about recruiting, it's across the organization which is there. And whenever agencies like us who go for a technology pitch, people feel more fearful, especially the people who are lower in the ground, because while it is bringing efficiency, They will feel that right now there are 10 people doing this job. With technology, there are only 2 needed. So that insecurity always become a barrier in adoption. So is there any suggestion or how do you envision this to be, take care of these things?
Sure. So I think we'll always have this, problem of when, I think the typical, mindset or tendency is that, okay, you bring in mission, then, you're cutting jobs, right? And I think over the years we have proved that it is not true, right? It's the other way to look at it is that we are just telling people that we are upskilling, right? Nobody likes to do a, low-end job, right? I started as a recruiter. I was a headhunter with Morpho long back. I started, my job was back then is to just to come to office. Okay, I wish all these technologies were there back then, right? I never liked doing the job. My job was only to call people, okay? And 20 years back, headhunting, the way it used to work is purely on relationship, right? So if I'm talking to Chetan, hey Chetan, hi, how are you? All good. And I ask him, okay, you know what? So let's say he's working for Callify. Can you tell me who's your supply chain guy, right? So purely through network, I built my database, right? And I was super proud back then. So I used to have an Excel sheet. Morning, I come open an Excel sheet. I see 500 names. I talk to 50 people. And I generate more referrals. And then I try and place them, right? That was the job. So to be honest, I don't think nobody likes that. Again, there's a different generation. People don't like coming, and none of my recruiters call every day religiously like how I used to call, right? They send WhatsApps. You're not supposed to send, but they send WhatsApp. They put it in a group, and they get 10 references, and they're happy, right? And they circulate an email. So I think the mindset is changing. And also we need to, whenever we are bringing in a change, going back to your first question, I said it's all about driving change. First thing is, at least when I evaluate tools, for me, the top two to three things are, what is the ROI? When will you see the ROI? Unfortunately, in the space of AI, ML and everything, you got to teach the mission over a period of time, right? Many of these, and a CEO always expects that, can I see the outcome in next quarter? When I put such tools in front of my CEO, the board, first thing I tell them is, you don't get anything this year, right? We need to first, one is 6 months you spend in driving the change across the organization, 6 months you invest in teaching the mission, and you will see the benefits later. So I think the first thing is, some of you, when you sell also, you have to set very clear expectations, saying that don't expect change in the second month, third month, right? Maybe some products can show, but largely when you start teaching the mission, right, going in the previous discussion, I think it's about algorithms, it's about picking the 2-3 words from a sentence, right? That is what we teach mission. So one is that, set the context and set when do you see the ROI. And the next most important thing is ensure that if you're taking a job, we'll have to very clearly tell that, let's say somebody's taking my job, right? You have to say that you're growing. We are upskilling you. You're going to do a better job. Nobody is taking, like everybody wants to grow, everybody wants to learn. I think all the companies fairly do a good job in terms of enhancing skills and helping people, right? Let it take, for a minute I'll come out of recruiting. Any automation you do, which means that the guy who's doing the job is learning a new skill and doing something which a machine can't do, right? So it's been traditionally last 20 years we've been picking up those low-end work. And today, I think you look at data scientists, look at the kind of skill sets we hire in India, right? Half of the 1 out of 7 resumes, 1 out of 7 resumes across the globe sits out of India, right? So that's the power of the talent here. These two things we set it very clear. One is the receiver, set clear expectations about the change. And one is the guy who's actually not going to do the job anymore, that you're going to do a better job. I think you set it clear. It's easy for all of us. I hope I answered part of your question. Thank you.
I would just like to add that, when technology companies are approaching, for their product, I think one live example from today I can give about, we were evaluating a technology company who was helping us, screen the right candidate. And they kept talking about typing test. They kept talking about, doing the screening based on certain parameters, which is not relevant at all for Karthik and me working in a pharma company. So how can you tailor make for that particular industry, for that organization, is very important for, like Karthik said, for the receiver, and how is it helping solve a certain problem. That problem can be solved after 6 months or 12 months, but if you can explain the longevity of the problem solving capability of that product, I think that will go a long way.
There are two best practices, very hacks in a way, that we have been now doing with our customers. So we recently onboarded Genpact to 175 recruiter team. And it was Genpact's idea that, hey, can you prepare a great launch video for us where you say that why are we even implementing a product like Callify? What are the problems that we are trying to solve? It did not talk about solution. It just talked about problems. And that problem was, hey, it's frustrating for you to make 20, 30 calls a day. Half the time people are not answering, half the time they're not interested, half the time you don't find them suitable. This is resulting into wastage of your time. And this tool is going to take away that from you so that you could focus on more better sourcing, better screening, what Karthik said, go up the value chain. So that is one thing. It is working beautifully, and we are actually making it as our own standard operating process for every new customer on board. We will share with them a launch video, product launch video. Second is some of our customers identified people, the recruiters, who are generally have better relationship in the overall scheme of things within the company. And they were made the ambassadors to actually run with the program first. So if there were 5, 6 people, they were first made to run with the program. And because they were anyway the ambassadors, the proliferation happened very seamlessly. So these are some of the tricks that were tried. Thanks.
All right. So it's happy hours, so no questions. We can all head down.
Absolutely, absolutely. So thank you so much. Thank you, Karthik. Thank you, Abhiroop, for participating. And I know it's late in the day, but really appreciate it. And thank you for your questions and great audience. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.